You know, we hear the term artificial intelligence thrown around all the time, right? A lot of people think of it as, I don't know, something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But here's the thing. It's not just the future. It's already here, and it's quietly reshaping our world in ways you probably don't even realize. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. Okay, so let's just get right to it. The big question on everyone's mind. Is artificial intelligence the future? Is it this far-off thing that's going to change our lives someday? Well, the short answer is, yeah, it's the future. But guess what? It's also the present. This isn't science fiction anymore. It is deeply, deeply embedded in the tech you and I use every single day. I mean, just think about it for a second. That product recommendation you got from Amazon, that's AI. When you ask Siri or Alexa for the weather, you're literally talking to an AI. And that social media feed you scroll through, yep, curated by AI algorithms. Even the mind-blowing tech behind self-driving cars, it's all powered by AI. It's become this invisible engine that's just driving so much of our digital lives. So how in the world did we get here? It's a really cool story, actually. And it all comes down to one massive foundational shift. We basically stopped trying to tell machines exactly what to do. And instead, we started teaching them how to learn for themselves. See, the old school AI was all rule-based. Imagine a giant, incredibly complicated list of if-then statements. A programmer had to literally sit there and write every single possible rule by hand. It was exhausting. But then came the revolution, data-driven AI. Instead of just following a pre-written script, the machine started learning patterns directly from tons and tons of data. It's the difference between a student who just memorizes facts for a test and one who actually understands the subject. It's a total game changer. And that ability to learn is precisely what makes modern AI so incredibly powerful. So, you ready? Let's take a quick peek under the hood. Okay, so at the very heart of most of this stuff, you'll find something called an artificial neural network. I know, it sounds super complicated, but the core idea is actually pretty intuitive. They're basically computing systems that are loosely modeled on our own brains. You've got these interconnected neurons that process information, spot patterns, and learn from experience, just like we do. This is the engine that makes data-driven AI run. And building one of these things isn't just magic. There's a pretty clear life cycle to it. First, you have to define the problem. What are you trying to solve? Then, you need the fuel for the engine, which is just massive, massive amounts of data. You feed that data to the model to train it. Then you have it check its own work to see how it's doing. And finally, you deploy it out into the real world, where you're always, always monitoring it. It's this constant cycle of learning, evaluating, and improving. All right, so that's a bit of the how. Now let's zoom out and talk about the so what. Because this isn't just some cool tech theory, this learning capability is literally unleashing a revolution across, well, pretty much everything. And if you want to measure that revolution, just follow the money. The global AI market was projected to be worth over $300 billion in 2023. And it's not slowing down, it's growing exponentially. This is not some niche little tech project. We're talking about a massive global economic force. And you can see the impact everywhere you look. In healthcare, for instance, AIs are looking at medical scans and spotting diseases earlier and more accurately than a human eye ever could. In transportation, it's the literal brain inside autonomous vehicles, with the goal of pretty much eliminating human error. It's what personalizes your shopping experience online, and it's even being used in finance to make big decisions, like who gets a loan more fair and accurate. Now, when you have something with this much power and impact, it's no surprise that it becomes more than just a piece of technology. AI is now a huge strategic asset, and it's right at the center of a brand new global competition. In fact, a couple of researchers, Gao and Zhang, put it perfectly. They said, artificial intelligence is the leading technology in the fourth industrial revolution. Think about that. Just like steam power or electricity completely changed the world in their time, AI is set to define this next era. And you better believe nations are racing to be at the front of that pack. And right now, that global race really has two clear frontrunners. The sources we looked at describe the United States as a superpower when it comes to brand new, original innovation in AI. On the other hand, you have China, whose biggest strengths are its huge market, unbelievable amounts of data, and really strong government support. Now, the sources do point out they're still working to close some gaps in foundational tech, like the most advanced computer chips. And this whole competition is happening at a really interesting time, right in the middle of a massive global economic shift. Just look at this chart. You can see how much the economic power of developing countries has grown since 1980. This isn't just a number on a graph. It means there are new global players with the resources, the talent, and the ambition to lead the next big tech revolution. And of course, AI is right at the top of their list. But all of this power, both technological and economic, it inevitably leads us to some of the biggest questions we could possibly ask. Because the rise of AI isn't just about code and data. It's forcing us to really think about what it means to be human. And the pace of all this change is just staggering. Experts are predicting that in the next decade or so, AI could be better than us at things like translating languages or even driving trucks. But it gets crazier. Within our lifetimes, it might outperform us in super creative and skilled jobs, like writing a best-selling book or even performing surgery. Wow. And with that kind of progress comes some really profound challenges. I mean, we're talking about huge questions. What happens to jobs? What about our privacy and all this data? How do we make sure these algorithms aren't biased? And then there's the biggest question of all. What happens when we finally create an intelligence that's smarter than we are? There's a word for this, actually. The philosopher Nick Bostrom calls it superintelligence, and his definition is pretty chilling. It's any intellect that greatly exceeds human cognitive performance in, well, pretty much everything. This idea used to be pure science fiction, but now it's a very serious topic of debate for scientists and ethicists. Which brings us to one last, absolutely critical question. As this technology gets more and more powerful, who gets to write the rules? Who decides how it's used, and what our intelligent future is going to look like? That's a conversation that doesn't just involve tech people, it involves all of us. Thanks for joining us.